Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be installing the Z36 brake and rotor kit for the front on this 2015 Jeep Wrangler Overland build. So if you've modified your rig by putting on heavy bumpers, a winch, a roof rack, things of that nature, you're going to want to check this out. Alright, so before we really get into the install, I just want to go over a couple of things. One, what's included in this particular kit, and second, the tools that you'll need, and third, kind of the prep before you really even get started. So we'll start with the kit itself. Now I got the kit that just includes just for the front. So I've got just pads and rotors. They're drilled and slotted. It comes with brake lubricant. It comes with the anti-rattle clips. It comes with new slide pin boots. So that's what's in this kit. Now there are other kits that are full, like front and rear. That's what I did originally, maybe 3 years ago, and they've lasted that long. So it's just time for me to change the pads in the front. The rear pads actually look pretty good, so I'm going to keep those there. So that's what this install is going to be. It's just going to be on the front side. I'm going to do one side, and then obviously you can derive from that what you need to do next. Now as far as parts or tools you're going to need, I know for a fact you're going to need a 21 millimeter to get the brake caliper bracket off. You're going to need a 13 millimeter and a 15 millimeter to get the brake caliper itself off of there. 19 millimeter for your lug nuts for your wheels and tires, jack stands, those kind of things. You may need a pry bar or a screwdriver to get the actual calipers off, depending on how faded your brakes are or how worn they are. And that should be it. So I'm going to go ahead and get my Jeep lifted up a little bit and the wheels and tires off of the front, and then we'll get started. I almost forgot. One of the most important things that you can do for this particular kit is you'll notice that when you get your kit, the rotors are going to be packed in a plastic bag. They're going to have an oil on them. That is to prevent rust and corrosion when they're sitting in the boxes and not being used. So you're going to want to clean those off. That's really going to help with the adhesion and providing a smooth layer of the new compound onto the brake steel and the break-in process. And speaking of the break-in process, we'll go through that after the install, but use some brake clean or use some even mineral spirits to get that oil residue off of the brand new rotors before you install them. All right, let's get to it. So now that we're in here, we've got the wheels and tires off. You can see the caliper bracket itself. Here's the old rotor here. And I've got a lug nut just holding that in place while I remove everything else. So this is where the 15 and 13 come in. You're going to use the 13 on the back on this, and then you're going to use the 15 to just kind of hold it in place while you take this off. Now you can use a ratchet or anything like that to just speed up the process, but I like breaking those loose and then going down on the bottom here. We're going to do the same thing. Alright, so those are loose. Now I'll just go ahead and get those out and we'll move on to the next step. Alright, now that those bolts are out, the next thing is to take the caliper itself off. So it should be relatively easy if you just kind of pull back on these guys a little bit. Make sure they're moving around. And then we'll just slide the caliper off. Okay. Oh, I got a lot of mud in there. Okay. And I just hang this up out of the way on some bungee, or if you have a old wire coat hanger or something like that. You just don't want it to stress out the brake line while you're there. Okay, so now we can see the old pads right here, and then we can see these 21 millimeters that we're gonna have to take off to get the bracket off. Then we'll remove the rotor. Okay, 21 millimeter. Break this down. Okay, now these were on pretty tight. I just broke them up, but yeah, they're torqued to 120 torque pound or foot pounds. So they're in there pretty good. And if you're like me, you use a little bit of red loctite on them too, just to make sure that they don't come out. But anyway, these are loose and they're gonna be coming out here shortly. Okay, so that's done. We'll go ahead and set this out of the way. Now the kit actually comes with new slide pin boots as well. You just check the fluidity here, make sure there's enough grease in there. This is a greasable part, so you definitely want to clean those up. I'm going to go ahead and replace them. You don't necessarily have to if they're functioning really well. Just check the level of grease and make sure there's not a lot of mud and dirt and grime in there. As you can see, I told you I was going to go ahead and replace these. They're pretty easy. You just wiggle them out a little bit, you'll get the boot, and there you go. So now this is out. Now it's really good to clean these up, replenish the grease, clean up around the seals and everything else that are on the bracket. So that's what I'm going to do now on both of these slide pins, and then I'll be right back to you. Alright, so you should be able to tell now. I've got the new boots on there, and I've re-greased them up. So it's really important that these things can slide easily, because this is actually what's going to move your caliper back and forth on the bracket. So it's really important that you clean that up and make sure there's no sand, dirt, grime all up in there that's going to be destroying these slide pins. Alright, keep this handy. It's going to come right off. Alright, set that down. Now it's really important not to touch the sides or the surfaces, the braking surface of the rotors. You don't want to get any grease on there, you don't want to get your fingerprints on there, especially after you clean them up. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just going to set this back on there. You'll see the difference for sure. Now, Powerstop makes it easy. They actually labeled, this is the front passenger side, they put it on there to make sure that the slots are going in the correct direction. And then you can put your lug nut back in place to kind of hold this tight. And we'll get back to the caliper bracket and all that kind of fun stuff. So before I move forward, I do want to show you the difference. That's how much the new pads. This is the old pad. You can definitely tell the difference in those two surfaces. So I'm going to have to compress my my caliper in order to fit these in. So if you have to do the same thing, if you've waited or took as long as I did to replace the pads, then you're going to want to remove your brake fluid reservoir cap just in case, and then go ahead and use either a C-ring or a D-clip, or if you have a brake kit like I do, a brake caliper compression kit, this is the time to use that, obviously. Alright, so I'm going to go through that, and then we'll move on. I'm just going to add a very small bit of red Loctite to these, and I tend to add it to the ends so that as it goes in, it actually spreads it around. So I'm going to set that over to the side for a second. Do the second one. And really, when I say small, I mean that. It's not a lot at all, because a little bit goes a long way with this stuff. Alright, and since we have access, I've actually moved the ABS line out of its bracket so that I can actually reach these bolts as we put them back on. But essentially, you're going to want to put it back the way that you took it off, which is this way for me. Take one of your 21mm bolts. We're going to line that up, and we're going to put that right back into the slot. Line that one up and get that one started. There we go. Alright, we're going to zip this down, and then we're going to get those torqued to 120 foot-pounds. It's just easier to do it now because you have much more access without that caliper on there. Okay, now that we've got the caliper back on, you could actually do this beforehand too, but it comes with new anti-rattle clips or slide clips, whatever you want to call them. And you just want to be looking for this little tab that comes out. That's how they go in. They help guide the actual brake pad themselves into place. So that one goes there. This one's going to go up top. Okay, so all that's in there. Alright, so we'll put the new pads in now. Now it's really important to lubricate these guys pretty well. The kit actually comes with some of this ceramic style lubrication, but just put some on the tops there of each side, and then the one on the back you're actually going to want to lubricate where the piston or the caliper actually hits it. So obviously it's pretty easy to figure out which way these things go in, so you're going to want to put these in, you know, obviously in the direction of the rotor itself. I'm just going to set this in there. Try not to actually touch the surface of the brake pad or the rotor itself, but there you go. I'll slide in there just fine. Now we can tell that that's a lot thicker than the previous one, so that's what's going to happen there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean up the caliper a little bit, go ahead and get that compressed, and then we'll put the caliper back on there. You don't necessarily have to compress this all the way, you just need to compress it enough to where you can fit it over the new brake pads. You want to make sure that you lubricate the surface of this caliper so it doesn't cause any scarring or anything. And I'll go through that in a minute. Alright, now that we have the caliper compressed, really the only thing left to do is to reattach it to the bracket. I'm going to start right now. We're going to get that one started in there. Okay. And we're going to flip this up over the pads. Get that in there. Tighten this down. Alright, we're going to tighten these just like we removed them before, but we're going to tighten them down to about 26 foot-pounds. We're just pretty tight, to be honest with you. With the 15 and the 13, and then we'll put the wheels and tires back on. I should say wheel and tire, because I'm only doing the passenger side right now, and then we'll start the break-in process. Alright, stay tuned. Okay, so now that the wheels and tires are back on the Jeep, it is time to break in this kit. Now, this is really important to ensure maximum performance out of it. Powerstop was actually nice enough to include the instructions right on the inside of this box here, but I'll lay them out for you here. It's 5 aggressive stops from 40 to 10 miles an hour, then 5 moderate stops, not really stops, but slowdowns from 35 to 5. After that, you drive around for a while, let the brakes cool off so that they actually cure onto the brakes themselves. I'm not going to take you guys along on that process. Like I said, Powerstop was nice enough to actually put that break-in process here for you, right on the inside of the box. So if you like installation videos like this, make sure to hit subscribe. And until next time, I'll see you on the trail.